All right, welcome everyone. We are here for the Zoning Board of Appeals, January 14th, 2026. This is a hybrid meeting. It will be held in hybrid fashion with the opportunity for both in-person attendance and remote participation. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The meeting will be held in person in the main meeting room of Deerfield Municipal Offices in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A. Anyone intending to record the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. Meeting attendees should mute phones unless asking questions or commenting. All attendees should wait to speak until other participants are finished. So we'll go to the call to order. This is our call to order. Roll call. Gabby.
Gabby Richard Harrington, remote.
Mark.
Mark Brennan, remote.
Tia.
Tia Christensen, remote.
And David Potter, in person. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 4th, 2025. Can I have a second?
Gabby Richard Harrington, second.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or concerns about our minutes from December 4th? Okay, seeing no concerns or questions, let's move to a vote to accept the minutes of 12/4/2025. Gabby, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mark?
Mark Brennan, aye.
Tia?
Tia Christensen, aye.
And David Potter, aye. We'll move to the old business. We have our special permit for 7th Thayer Street, which was a continued hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Deerfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 16th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. on an application filed by Gary Beaudry for a special permit for a property located at 7th Thayer Street, identified in the assessor's records as map 174, lot 138, to allow for a multifamily dwelling in the CVRD district pursuant to bylaw chapter 179, section 2230. I want to welcome Steve Chaplin. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing your written opinion in council. And welcome to our special guests. Do we have a sign-in sheet for these guys?
Oh, I can just write.
Okay, we know who you are. And welcome again. So if there's anything you want to update us on, anything you want to ask us at this point, you know, the floor of the table is yours.
Well, I mean, for the record, Conrad Attorney, Pick and Wilson out of Amherst here with Gary Beaudry and his application for a special permit. I'll defer to town council to take it from here, and we can answer any questions you have.
Okay, that sounds good. So let's just review what part of the meeting. I guess we really, in order to have the hearing continued, we heard all of our applicants' statements. We took all the information in, and we were discussing among ourselves, right, as far as concerns and angles and perspectives, and trying to sift through the bylaws to see if there was applicability. So anybody on the board want to ask any questions, make any comments? No. Okay. Are we ready for a vote? Should we make a motion to vote? Are we good given the legal information, or should we ask Steve to summarize in any way? Yeah.
I would like to hear Steve summarize.
Okay.
Because some of the information provided in this last packet and documents sounded very different.
Okay, sounds good. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pleasure to be here as always. Good to see everybody. I'll give a high-level overview and happy to field any questions from individual board members that might result. This particular property is a bit unique, might be a strong word, but it's a bit atypical. It's not something that we see. We have two structures on the property. There's a single-family home, which appears to be approximately 1,800 square feet. Then you have a second structure that I understand used to be a funeral home, approximately 3,500 square feet. That's the subject of this application. The proposal is not to modify, when I talk about modifications for zoning purposes, we're talking about alterations to the footprint or the exterior features. There's no proposal to make that type of modification of the structure. Any physical modifications would be in the interior of the structure, keeping the footprint where it is. The proposal is to use this as a three-family, which under the zoning bylaw would be a multifamily dwelling, instead of a funeral home, which I understand was a past use. Sounds like it may have been discontinued. In this particular case, it doesn't appear to be material as to when that use began or stopped. Because they're not seeking to continue that use, they're seeking to proceed with a use that is allowed under the zoning bylaw as a multifamily dwelling. What makes this a little different than most cases we see is we have these two structures on the property, and they have different uses. And not all zoning bylaws will allow for multiple principal structures on a property. Not all zoning bylaws will allow for multiple principal uses on a property. Many zoning bylaws will allow for a principal use and an accessory use. The Deerfield bylaw is different in that way, where its definitions section contemplates having multiple principal uses on a property or multiple principal structures on the property. And as I looked into this today, you had historically a funeral home and you had a single-family home on the same property. So when we ask for purposes of the analysis, is this a situation where we have multiple principal structures, or is this a situation where you have a principal structure and an accessory structure? We look to what the definition of an accessory structure is, and there has to be a relationship between a principal structure and accessory structure, where the accessory structure is customarily incidental to the principal structure. So if it would not be customary for one who has a single-family residence, like the home I'm sitting in now, to just happen to have an incidental funeral home on the property. That's just not something that happens. The inverse is not as dead on arrival, shall we say. It seems like more of a possibility that you could have a funeral home and you could have the owners of the funeral home live on the property. That seems to happen. I think we all know that happens fairly often, at least from our anecdotal experience. In this particular case, however, there's, I guess, two independent data points that lead me to the conclusion we have two principal structures. One is that the bylaw contemplates it. The other is that if the residents were incidental to the funeral home, then when the funeral home use stopped, the residential use would have stopped. And my understanding is that the single-family residence continues to be used. So the totality of the circumstances thus leads me to conclude that we have two principal structures as contemplated by the definition section of the zoning bylaw. So from there, we essentially view each structure separately, and we view the use of each structure separately. So the application only pertains to that 3,500 square foot structure. And as we read it, the zoning bylaw pertaining only to that structure as a principal, I should say, the proposed use as a principal use, it's allowed subject to special permit. So the board is tasked with reviewing the special permit criteria and whether or not the use, whether the permit is warranted under those criteria, and it is approvable. I know there had been some concerns relative to bylaw sections 2253 through 2256. The first two of those sections deal with exterior changes to a non-conforming structure. This happens in a number of contexts. Typically somebody wants to take an old, oftentimes single family. It might be on an oddly shaped lot or close to a lake, and they want to rehab it, but they want to expand out the living room or add a story or something like that. That's where we typically see the first two of those, 2253 and 2254 applied. 2255 deals with the continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use. We would look at that if the applicant were coming to us and saying, I want to revive the funeral home use. But they're not saying that. What they're saying instead is that we want to take that structure, which is lawfully non-conforming, and we want to use it in a way that is conforming, multifamily dwelling. So from there, the board takes that application, sifts it through the various special permit factors, and makes a determination as to whether that permit is warranted.
Okay, thank you very much. That was very concise, very clear. So it sounds to me like our job now as a board is to just filter through the criteria for issuing a special permit. We have a situation which is approvable. Does anybody on the board have any questions or concerns about how any of the criteria may be used to evaluate or consider how we determine this decision? Yeah, Tia.
Hi there, good evening. I just wanted to confirm, I had in my notes and wanted to make sure that they were correct, that there are 10 parking spaces that are off-street associated with the property. Are my notes correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we have agreement, affirmation. Applicants, yeah. Okay. Gabby, any questions?
Yeah, as far as the three-family structure and the house, I'm wondering how close they are at the closest point in that back corner. Because my understanding is then that that any egress has to have fire separation, and will that cause either building to have any change in that exterior footprint in order to accommodate that?
We have about 25 feet between buildings.
It's that much, huh? Okay, thank you.
Okay, no further questions, Gabby? Okay, Mark, any questions or comments?
No questions for me. I would just like to thank council for a thorough analysis of all of this. So thank you very much.
Happy to help. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Seems like we're gathering momentum to make a motion.
Yeah, you want to make a motion to close the hearing.
Close the hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyone want to make that motion?
So make a motion, Gabby Richard Harrington, to close is it the public? So we're making a motion to, I didn't hear you, to close the public discussion,
Close the public hearing.
public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, I second the motion to close the public hearing. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's vote. Tia.
Tia Christensen, aye.
Mark.
Mark Brennan, aye.
And Gabby.
Gabby Richard Harrington, aye.
And David Potter, aye. So we close the public hearing, and this is now our opportunity for board deliberations. If anybody would like to proceed and share any thoughts. Okay, everybody's pretty well set. All right. So at this time, I think we usually, inform the applicant that you're free to withdraw the application, no prejudice. If the vote doesn't go your way, you're prevented from resubmitting for the special permit for 2 years. Yeah, okay. You comfortable? All righty. So, do we want to discuss any what do we call it? The conditions at this time? Any concerns with conditions before we go to the final vote? I think you all were shared this paired document with proposed zoning board of appeals conditions for this property. That might have just come in your email just a few minutes ago. Looks a lot like many of the conditions documents that we've worked with before. Tia?
It's pretty much the standard conditions.
And you guys have a copy of this? Okay. Was there a question? Tia? Oh, Mark, you got a hand up.
Yeah, I've reviewed all the questions. They look like the standard boilerplate, or sorry, reviewed all of the proposed conditions. They seem to be their standard boilerplate conditions, and I see no need to add any others.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Tia?
Question for us in the information that council supplied, and thank you again for all of your work on that. There was a call out that if there were to be any additional apartments that would want to be created in this property, that requires a separate special permit. So I guess my question for our board here is that something that we would want to include as a special condition call out like we do for the other things? Or are we all feeling fine that we don't need to include that in a special condition?
Mark?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It would trigger having to apply for another special permit. So I think I'm fine with what we have so far.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that it's just part of the process of, continuing to build more apartments. There would have to be a building inspector issue, and that would, most likely come to us for another special, right? So I don't think it's anything special about this property or this process. So again, I'm also comfortable just keeping these conditions as they're written. Gabby, do you feel any differently?
I don't think I have any real questions. I guess I just still wonder why sometimes it says 7th Air Street and sometimes the old 2 addresses are still being used. But I don't know, that's just me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the application materials are for 7, and that I assume is the back address.
One is the mailing address, and then the other is the address that's listed in the recording. That's why there's 2 different addresses.
Okay. I assume there would be a different address in some way. Would it do? I mean, I don't know if this is pertinent, but we're on the topic. So would it be like 7A, 7B, 7C?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, that seems customary by the fire codes.
But it would be up to the fire department and building commissioner to make that decision.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking as well. Okay. And so seeing as how we're comfortable with these conditions, I'll make a motion that we approve the special permit for 7th Air Street, including these proposed zoning board of appeals conditions for 7th Air Street.
Mark Brennan, second.
All right, thank you. Let's go to a vote. Gabby?
Gabby Richard Harrington, aye.
Mark?
Mark Brennan, aye.
Tia?
Tia Christensen, aye.
And David Potter, aye. So with that, it is unanimous. We have approved your special permit. Congratulations. Welcome to the neighborhood. All right. Any other concerns? I think we have to sign some things. And we'll continue on with our meeting after this, just to go down the list of other issues here on our 11 points of our meeting agenda. So just give us a couple of minutes online and we'll be back to you.
Thanks, Steve. Good seeing you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Just like this. Everyone.
Okay, I think we're just having that taken care of on the side. There's no new business that I'm aware of. I'm not sure if this fits in with other business or discussion, but the town adopted a stance, I'm not sure whether it's a regulation or a bylaw, protocol, or what have you, about, help me out here if you guys know the specifics, that town employees because it is an expectation, I believe, that was approved by the select board that town employees cannot be on appointed boards. Okay, and so I brought that up recently with Mr. Trevor, and his expectation, I think, was to touch base with you, Gabby, about how that's supposed to go.
I had asked about that as soon as I was hired by the town, and I was told two different things. One was I needed to stay on until I could be replaced, and the other was as long as I wasn't the chair of the committee, it was okay. So I will happily step down because I could use a few more hours in my month, day, week. But I will stay on until I can be replaced so that the board can meet.
Okay, all right. Sounds reasonable. Anybody know anybody who's looking to be part of the board?
I can't say that I do.
T and I were at an event on Sunday where we were talking to a group of the public, maybe related mostly to Engage Deerfield. And I don't know if anybody was attracted to consider joining us from there. I wasn't able to stay till the end. T, did anybody come forward and say they definitely wanted to look into being part of the board?
I mean, if you can think of anybody who might be interested, please, I think we need to actively recruit.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any alternates.
Because at this point, we need 4 people to vote on any special permit.
Yeah.
You know, quorum is 3, but you need 4 people to vote, and if you can't vote on a special permit, it's kind of useless.
Okay, well, Mark?
Is this a bylaw or a policy? I do remember part of the genesis of this, but I don't remember the mechanism we used to adopt this. Is it a bylaw or a policy?
It is select board policy, it's not the bylaws.
Okay, so to that end, I don't think that this policy makes any sense. It makes what I think is kind of a silly delineation because this doesn't apply to committees. It only applies to boards, as I understand. So I would like to see if the zoning board would be willing to potentially write a letter to the select board to see if we could remove this policy. And just wanted to see what everyone else's kind of thoughts were around that before I make a motion to do so. But you know, we've got a lot of great people that live in this town, and to you know, have someone like Gabby be precluded from being on the zoning board, I think is kind of silly when she could be on a committee. So I just want to see how the rest of the board feels, and perhaps without having to have Gabby step down, we can see if the select board would be willing to change that policy.
Well, I guess I can appreciate your idea in principle. I'm not sure that that's what Gabby wants in this particular case, and that's okay either way.
Doesn't matter what I want. It's not like there are people beating down the door to be on the committee. And if the committee is going to do its work, it needs 4 people. So until they can figure out how to recruit more people, I'm happy to stay on the committee and not resign.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, you know, I'm not necessarily saying this because you know, I you know, want to change the policy just for Gabby. I think it just logically doesn't make sense. But would also it would be a pleasant surprise if Gabby would be willing to stick around if we do get this sorted out. But it seems like a silly policy to me, and yeah, I would like to more than just ask the select board myself. I think it would have a little bit more weight if it came, from a motion from the zoning board. So I'll make the motion, see if anyone seconds it. I'd like to make a motion that the zoning board requests that the select board remove the policy that precludes town employees from serving on boards.
I would offer a friendly amendment. Maybe if we word it that town employees should be allowed to serve on boards the way they are allowed to serve on committees may make a bigger difference.
Sure, I'll amend as suggested.
Can you clarify that, Gabby? I'm not sure I understand. how that-
So Mark said that town employees should be allowed to serve on boards. Maybe we should remind them that they're allowed to serve on committees. They should also be allowed to serve on boards.
I see. I don't think they're lacking clarity on that. I think the distinction is that people can be elected by the public for committees or, yeah.
No, that's not true. We have many appointed committees. That's why I think this is silly. We have more people appointed to committees than we have elected to committees.
My rec department committee is all appointed by the select board.
Yeah, I guess my point was not about whether it's called a committee or board, but that there are elections that are able to elect town employees to serve on town boards or committees. I don't want to, I'm not going to parse those out, but nobody who's a town employee can be appointed, is my understanding. And again, I'm not claiming that I know this inside and out. Tia, do you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, historically, does anybody know what the thought was that created the policy in the first place? Or is it
Yes.
so long ago that we don't know?
No, it's actually very recent. There were concerns about having members of the police department on the zoning board.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And that member was the chair of the board. So
We have people in town that aren't police that are employed. And I'm not going to get into how that started, but I just think that aside from that, it just logically doesn't hold water, because any police officer who lives in town can be appointed to a committee. So I think it's a silly delineation, and I'd like to see if we can get rid of it.
Thank you, Mark.
So does someone want to second the amended motion?
I don't think I should be the one that seconds it.
I'll second the amended proposal.
okay. Any need for further discussion? All right, so let's bring it to a vote on the amended motion. Mark, how do you vote?
Mark Brennan, aye.
Gabby?
I think I'm going to abstain. Will that still be okay if there are only 4 of us? I'm abstaining.
Yes, we had a quorum when we started, so it would be up to the rest of the people voting.
All right, Tia?
Tia Christensen, aye.
David Potter, I will abstain. And so that means it doesn't pass, is that right? We have 2 votes.
It does not pass. We don't have a majority.
All right, well, I think that leaves us where we started. We still have Gabby for the foreseeable future. And yeah, if people want to put it out there to the community in some way, I don't know, maybe you can talk to town employees to see if there's out on the town website, or if I think somebody wants to put it on Deerfield now. We certainly we would love to have more people, give us some more flexibility to miss a meeting or so here and there. But to my knowledge, what we need a full-time member, and we'd like 2 alternates, right?
And it is on the website.
Oh.
the mechanism.
Fantastic.
Yep, just as long as they're not cops.
That's actually. Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Yes, it's in the packet. You have the mail that announced, the hearing for the, telephone polls. That actually took place here today. It's also taking place in other towns.
Okay, nothing we need to do about it? Just
No.
information?
I don't know if there's something different with the miking system today, but it is much harder to understand all of you than it has been in the past.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you all sound like you're underwater.
Sorry to hear that. You guys sound great and you look good.
Thanks.
Yeah, during the hearing today, they changed the sound system around completely and maybe in hooking it back up, it might have been changed. That may be what you're hearing.
Okay, so we have an upcoming meeting already set for February 19th at 6:30 PM. Would you guys just check your calendars? Make sure that's gonna work.
Is that back to a Thursday?
Yes.
And I do think it's, if it matters to any of us, the school vacation week, is that accurate? Is the 16th Patriots Day, President's Day? Yeah. I'm not sure it's relevant.
That is school vacation week.
Traditionally, you guys have not met if you don't have an application in front of you. I don't know if you have other business you want to talk about. So far, you don't have an application. So, we could wait and see if one comes in, and even if one comes in, we have 65 days to schedule the hearing, so. I think you could be safe saying we make the next meeting March. Third Thursday in March.
All right, yeah, sound good to people?
Yeah, much better.
Business on the docket at the moment?
Oh, Mr. Chair, can I have one thing?
Yes.
An update, I guess?
Yeah.
So I've been talking with you all about the Conway School and having some grad students come in and do some housing and ADU bylaw data and analysis for us. We had a first meeting with them today, actually. So they're lovely, they're really fun, they're thoughtful, they're really engaging, they're excited reading some of the stuff we sent them, and then I dumped a whole bunch of more housing data and feasibility studies that we've done over the course of the last few years on them. And one thing that's changed is, at the state level, there's now a rural and small town housing community of choice designation. So it's separate, it really used to be primarily for MBTA communities and really set up for like bigger communities out east with, transportation, all this. And so this new housing, small town, and rural town housing community of choice threshold, and these students, I mean, it's just kind of wild how like all the timing is lining up for this. So, I know Mark expressed he was interested in it. I'm trying to work with the students to propose an evening meeting at this point, for next week and then weekly moving here on out. And there are going to be a few community outreach points, so I'll definitely just include you all on those outreaches. But was anyone else interested in joining in that housing? I just don't want to exclude anybody if any of you are interested.
Yeah, and I am unfortunately not going to be able to commit as much as I'd like to. So if anyone else in the committee wants to, I unfortunately won't be able to.
In all honesty, I didn't really hear any of what you just said. So if we could get a little, the audio is just weird tonight, but what is the request?
If someone was interested in being part of a committee weekly over the next few weeks, for a housing bylaw zoning analysis.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That I got.
Okay.
For myself, I'm not available.
No, I know it's a time commitment, so.
Okay, no one else stepping up? All right.
When does it begin?
It's next week and then weekly up until the end of March. And there are a couple there's about 4 people from planning board that are interested, 3 from the senior housing committee. And there's actually a resident who was involved in the last ADU bylaw subcommittee that I'm gonna ask and see if they'll be interested in joining again too.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Whomever came in and switched the system today needs to come back and put it back in order.
Okay, that wraps us up for tonight, guys. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we need to vote to
Oh,
adjourn.
we get to vote to adjourn. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Thea Christensen, aye.
Mark Brennan abstained.
Okay. All right, good night, guys.
And I,
Before you go, I'm just gonna start.